Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto died and sent to the My Little Pony universe with Harem? Part 10. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Normally when one hears that sound, it means something just exploded and it's bad for every pony both far and near the source of the sound. Well, that's not what is going on. Despite hearing that, we locate the sound which came from Canterlot. We're at the royal palace within the barracks. The soldiers and cadets stood a very safe distance away from the training ground, which is currently occupied by two combatants engaged in a heated spar. Naruto kept jerking his head left and right to avoid incoming punches, whilst backing away from the relentless assault from his sparring partner Luce Astro, who suddenly stopped the assault and spun around to lash out with his tail towards his head like a whip. Naruto quickly ducked under the incoming strike and launched a chakra tendril to wrap around the tail, then he pulled back to fling Luce over his shoulder across the field. Thinking quickly, Luce called upon his magic with the horn emitting a cyan aura as he called out escape velocity. A transparent dome surrounded him and levitated in midair as he came to a stop. Naruto quirked an eyebrow in interest of the new spell, but snapped back into focus when he saw his opponent's horn glowing against stellar wind. A star appeared overhead before a powerful gust of starry wind burst from it towards him. Naruto formed a pair of chakra arms and weaved through a series of hand signs before calling out wind style. Great breakthrough. He took in a really deep breath with his stomach bulging a bit as he brought a chakra arm to his mouth before blowing a massive gust of wind. Both gusts clashed in the middle, resulting in a strong shockwave that nearly blew the spectators away. "Whoa, these guys are really going at it," said a cadet. "Tell me about, I kinda doubt any pony would want to face either of them in the field should they get any stronger," said a soldier. Speed star. Luce shot off with a wide aura radiating from his body like a comet at high speed. Naruto summoned the Hashi no Ha and transformed it into a shield to block the strike. However, Luce continued with the onrush and began to inflict hits which Naruto wasn't able to block in time. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto called upon a large number of clones around him, only for Luce to take them down one by one until there were none left. However, the original wasn't anywhere to be seen. Luce stopped to look around, then he heard Naruto's voice right above him. Chakra bullet. Rapid fire. He looked up to see Naruto launching a volley of white orbs down towards him. Circumstellar disc. A ring-shaped accumulation of stone debris swirled around Luce to block each and every one of the incoming projectiles before he retaliated with another spell. Binary asteroid. He conjured two large boulders that revolved around each other before launching them. Giant Rasengan barrage. Naruto summoned a pair of clones to help form two large spiraling spheres before diving straight towards the incoming boulders and rammed his technique into them, grinding both into pebbles before landing on the ground. Fire lance. Multiple spears of flames appeared around him before shooting towards their target. Comet. Luce conjured a gigantic ball of ice and rock and fired it. The comet slammed into the flaming spears which melted the ice, but the rock part of it was in motion. Naruto formed large chakra arms and proceeded to rapidly punch at it, shattering into smaller pieces. Then he used his magic to pick them up and fling back at Luce, who quickly set up a barrier to deflect them. The two were about to re-engage in the spar when they heard a voice call out to them. "Alright you two, that's enough sparring for now." They turned to see Shining Armor walking towards them with a smile on his face, "But I gotta say, both of you really tore up the place." Naruto and Luce looked around to see craters and heaps of rock surrounding them, as well as the stunned looks from the cadets and soldiers that were watching them before turning back to Shining, feeling sheepish. "Haha, sorry about that. I kinda went overboard there." Naruto rubbed the back of his head, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I wish to apologize as well, Captain." Luce bowed his head in apology. However, Shining simply waved it off. "Don't let it get to you. This even tells us that the cadets have a lot of ground to clear if they want to keep up with you too. We hope to see you spar again, hopefully with me taking part." "I'm ready for you at any time, Shining," said Naruto with a smirk, which Shining responded in kind before walking away. Luce turned towards Naruto and spoke. "I'll be going to rest for a bit." "Sure thing, Luce, I'll catch you later." Naruto headed for the exit of the barracks. He glanced aside and saw most of the cadets swarming around Luce with looks of amazement and admiration, just like how I used to look at Pervy Sage and Kakashi Sensei, because I wanted to be strong just like them. Due to the princesses being too busy to able to hold a conversation with earlier before the spar, Naruto was currently walking along the streets of Canterlot towards the exit whilst contemplating whether to fly and run. He snapped out of his thoughts when his ears picked a queer conversation between two aristocratic ponies whom he was passing by. "Can you believe it? That rapscallion has made his appearance here in Canterlot," said pony number 1. "As unbelievable as it is, the rumors are true. My brother just had his 24-karat carrot stolen last night and the rascal actually had the nerve to leave behind a calling card of his thievery," said pony number 2. And apparently, your brother isn't the only pony that has been robbed of their possessions. I believe the scum's name is." Naruto leaned a bit closer to hear more of this interesting story when one of the ponies suddenly hailed a nearby cab and they boarded it before leaving. Sounds like a thief to me, and a good one at that. But seriously, a 24 carat. These high class have some weird preferences," said Naruto. He shrugged his shoulders before forming his chakra wings and making for Ponyville with the intention of getting some food to sate himself. Ah, now that hit the spot. Naruto was smiling in satisfaction, having lunch over at Cafe Hay, and was currently walking back to the whirlpool to check up on sales, as well as update a few of his pet projects. I better put a rain check on revisiting Konoha and getting some more Fuinjutsu scrolls from Pervy Sage, without anyone seeing me though. He had arrived at the door of the shop and grabbed the doorknob with his tail, ready to open it. I can't believe that guy. Naruto was startled by the sudden outburst from within the shop, he even recognized the voice too. He opened the door and went inside to find Rainbow Dash hovering in midair, with Trixie looking rather irritated for some reason, much to his curiosity. Ash can be irritated for several reasons, like someone bullying her friends, proclaiming to be faster than her, long speeches, anything relating to slow, etc. etc. Admittedly, the list is long. Trixie perked up upon seeing the orange stallion enter the shop and smiled. "Oh, hello Naruto, how was your visit over at Canterlot?" "Hey, it was okay, so what's with the sour mood, Dash?" asked Naruto as he approached them. "Hi Naruto, it's just that some pony stole something important from me last night," Rainbow Dash grumbled out, clearly upset. Naruto was taken aback from the news. "What? How did that happen?" "Well, it was after I did some nighttime aerobatic training and I was on my way home." Rainbow Dash began her story of what happened. Flashback. It was night in Ponyville, and Rainbow Dash was lazily flying low over the roofs of buildings after doing a few time sprints to break her own records, as well as brushing up on her flying skills. What a perfect time for a workout after that power nap today. I never would have thought of doing this kind of training if Naruto hadn't given me these custom goggles of his, and I heard that the Wanderbolts requested for custom goggles too. And to think that I possess the second of its kind, I'm so lucky. Rainbow Dash fondly prodded the goggles worn on her forehead. She was currently flying over the town hall when suddenly a black silhouette leapt out from behind its spire straight at her. Rainbow Dash stopped in midair and was about to back away from whatever it was when she felt her goggles being grabbed and pulled from her hair, much to her surprise, which was soon replaced by anger. She turned to look at the perpetrator as Luna's moon shone overhead to reveal that it is a male unicorn, though he seems to wear a black mask, a black vest with a grey shirt underneath it, a black fedora and trench coat, long enough to be a cape. "Hey. What's the big idea? Give it back, and who are you anyway?" Rainbow Dash yelled out. The mysterious pony seemed to shake his head whilst uttering "TSK TSK TSK." In disapproval of the question. "I should have known that a town like Ponyville wouldn't be aware of me, but I guess I was hoping too much." "Very well then, allow me to introduce myself. I am MmWhat, the thief extraordinaire and the best escapologist in all of Equestria." Rainbow Dash momentarily stunned, but her anger returned. "A thief extraordinaire? Then why steal my goggles, since it's not exactly diamonds or any kind of jewelry?" MmWhat nodded in agreement while twirling the goggles in one of his hooves. "True, I wouldn't have had a second thought about stealing a pair of mediocre goggles. But after overhearing a filly talk about its features, how could a thief like me ignore such a perfect tool? Well, I'm not going to let you take them. I would like to see you try." MmWhat stuffed the goggles into a pocket on his vest. At those words, Rainbow Dash shot straight at him with great speed, wanting to take him by surprise and grab her goggles. However, MmWhat simply stood there with barely a flinch, then at the last moment took to the air with a backflip as Rainbow Dash passed right underneath him before he landed on the ground and took off with her in pursuit. MmWhat turned from one street to another with Dash closing in. She was merely a few meters within when the thief stopped in one place for her to pass by yet again and ran into a nearby alleyway where he jumped up several wooden crates to reach up to the roof of a house. There he leapt from one roof to another. Rainbow Dash rose to the air looking absolutely livid. She flew after, but this time was ready for any of his tricks. "You can't outmaneuver me forever. I'll get you yet." MmWhat flipped off the roof which he was on, sliding down from wall to wall before hitting the ground, and was on the run. He continued to jump and flip whenever Dash gets close to him, which only serves to anger her more. This continued until they found themselves in the middle of the park when MmWhat suddenly spoke up. "I believe it's time I took my leave," said the thief. "Not with my goggles, you won't." Rainbow Dash sped towards him faster than normal. Suddenly his horn emitted grey aura and black ropes shot out from under his trench coat as they lunged at a surprised Rainbow Dash, who couldn't avoid them in time, wrapping her up before she crashed to the ground and skid to a stop before Umbra's hooves. "On the contrary, I see that you're still not giving up." Umbra was mildly impressed, seeing Rainbow Dash struggle to free herself from the enchanted rope. I want them back, you no good thief. To value this item so much, tell you what, let's have a game, said Umbra. A game? Rainbow Dash was confused at what he's talking about. That's right, if you're able to catch me in my home turf. Then I'll give them back to you, but you have only 3 tries, and so far you used 1. I don't care, I'm getting those goggles back. We'll see, till then I bid you adieu. Umbriag then took out a grey ball and tossed it to the ground, which released a cloud of smoke, then it cleared to reveal that he was gone and a card laid on the ground. Flashback end. And it was an hour later that those annoying ropes disappeared. This was the card he left behind. Rainbow Dash finished her story as she took out the card from her medallion and placed it on the counter for them to look. It was a grey card with a black silhouette of a unicorn wearing a fedora and trench coat and a white moon as the background. Naruto took note of a heart drawn on the card with an arrow piercing through it, causing his eye to twitch rather quickly, and a growing urge to unleash the Naruto 2K barrage on him multiple times. There's something else written here, meet me at Manhattan for another nightly date, my rainbow pursuer, said Trixie. Okay, forget the 2K barrage, make it a 4K or Sengen barrage. That guy's totally asking for it. I'm going to Manhattan and get my goggles back, said Rainbow Dash. I'm coming along too, I don't like the fact that he stole from you and tied you up either, said Naruto. It's no biggie, Naruto, I can catch this guy on my own, Dash protested. But neither of us have actually been in Manhattan, so we'll need to learn more about the place before heading there. Rainbow Dash wanted to say more but remained quiet, seeing that Naruto had a point on what he's talking about. Well, if you two want to get to Manhattan, you'll have to take the train to the northeast of Ponyville across a long railroad bridge to the city, which is built on an island, said Trixie. Thanks for the info, Trixie, did you go there before? Asked Naruto. No, Trixie was planning to go there after her performance in Ponyville. Trixie looked depressed at the end of the sentence. Naruto felt bad for bringing up what happened when she first came to Ponyville. She still blames herself for that incident with the Ursa, despite Naruto always telling her all is forgiven. Now that we know where and how to go, let's start packing, then head for Manhattan right now. I'll meet you at the train station in 20 minutes. Said Rainbow Dash as she started flying out of the shop. Hey Dash, why? Naruto called out to her, but she was already gone by then. He let out a sigh and turned to Trixie. Guess I'll have to go and pack too, will you and Scoots be okay while I'm gone? We'll be fine, since you won't be gone for too long. I'll watch over the shop and keep records of any custom crystal requests, said Trixie. Sure thing, Trix, I'll see you later. Trixie watched as Naruto walked out of the shop and let out a sigh. I wish that we get more time together, if not for Twilight and others preoccupying him most of the time. Back at his home, Naruto went up to his room and packed up a couple of his clothes before descending towards his workshop to pick up some crystals, as well as a few items which might serve as useful, sealing them all into his medallion. He wrote down a note for Scootaloo to inform her where he was going and reasons why before leaving for the train station. There he found Rainbow Dash there already waiting for him. What took you so long? Asked Rainbow Dash. I had to pack a few stuff and leave a note for Scoots to know where I've gone, Naruto replied. Well, I've got the tickets, so let's get going. All aboard, train leaving for Manhattan. The conductor called out as said train let out a loud whistle. Naruto and Rainbow Dash quickly got on the train along with the other passengers. A few moments later the train slowly pulled away from the station and was soon along the rails with the duo watching the passing scene change from forests, plains for several hours, until noticing that they're moving across a very long railroad bridge over the sea. The conductor spoke up for the passengers present to hear him. We're now drawing close to our destination, so please remain seated until the train comes to a complete stop at the mainway station. We hope you enjoyed the ride, said the conductor. Naruto looked out the window and was surprised to see a large green statue of an earth pony standing on a small island. It depicted a mare wearing a robe and crown while holding a stone tablet in her left hoof and a raised torch in her right. Whoa, that's pretty cool, thought Naruto. Sure enough, the train made its stop and the duo got off and marveled at the sight of the station's interior, with numerous ponies going in and out of the building. They made their way out by passing through the entrance, however the sight of the city truly stunned them. There are tall buildings and skyscrapers as far as they could see, asphalt streets with pony-drawn taxi carriages, elevated railways among others things they're yet to see. Whoa, this is a pretty place. But how are we going to find Umbriag? Asked Rainbow Dash. Well, the first thing we should do is find a place to stay while we're here. Naruto took out a brochure from the pocket of his jacket. Let's see here. Here's one, Mainfair Hotel. All we have to do is follow the map here. It took them a while along with a couple dead ends, but they eventually arrived at the fancy establishment. There they paid for a twin room and settled it before taking to the streets. Okay, so what's next? How do we find this guy? Asked Rainbow Dash. Naruto thought deeply, trying to recall something that Jiraiya told him when they were searching for Tsunade for her to become Hokage. He snapped back to attention upon hearing a growling sound. He turned to see Rainbow Dash clutching her stomach with a blush on her face. "Sorry about that, I skipped lunch today. Let's go find a place where we can get a bite to eat," said Rainbow Dash. That statement caused Naruto's eyes to widen in realization. That's it, I remember now. Pervy Sage once told me that places like taverns or even restaurants are one can pick up all sorts of information. We'll be sure to learn more about MmWhat and how to find him. Then it's thanks to my gut that we have a plan, Rainbow Dash spoke with smugness. More like reminding you to fill up your stomach, Naruto smirked in reply, then a growl was heard, but this time it came from an embarrassed blonde stallion. Same could be said for you, said Rainbow Dash amusedly. The duo followed the map on the brochure map to locate a diner where they sat at a window seat and were looking through the menu when a Marem in green coat and vermilion mane in a waitress uniform walked up to them with a smile on her face. "Hello, how may I take your order?" she asked. "I'll take a coleslaw sandwich and orange juice," said Naruto. "For me it's tomato cheese sandwich and a milkshake," said Rainbow Dash. Humming right up. The waitress walked off. It took about several minutes before she returned with a tray of their ordered food which she placed on the table before them. "Here you go." "Thank you. By the way, there's something I've been meaning to ask," said Naruto. The waitress looked at him confusedly. "Yes, what is it?" "This is the first time my friend and I came to Manhattan from Ponyville, and we've been hearing rumors about a thief who goes by the name MmWhat." "Oh. So you've heard of him." MmWhat is a thief well known for his ability to steal valuable items and never get caught, no matter how hard they try. "I hear he alerts the place that he's going to rob ahead of time and then leaves behind his calling card after doing so," said the waitress. "I see, thanks for telling us about him," said Naruto with a foxy grin. Rainbow Dash's eye twitched in annoyance as she saw the waitress blush before walking away. "Okay then, let's eat." Dash what up with a look. "It's nothing. Let's just eat and get out of here so we can find that guy." Rainbow Dash started on her meal in a rather angry manner, much to Naruto's confusion before he began on his own. Later on, the duo were moving along the street in direction of the Manhattan Museum of Art. A place like that would definitely attract a thief like MmWhat. They made their way inside and took in the sights of the many artifacts on display, with one in particular being a golden scepter adorned with multiple gems. "I bet MmWhat would go after this scepter soon," said Rainbow Dash. "You might be right, Dash, something like this would be too good for him to pass up." Naruto nodded in agreement. Then a pony wearing a black suit ran out of his office looking distressed as he called out, "Security. Security." Then a pair of earth ponies wearing guard uniform ran up to him and stood with a salute. "Sir, how may we help you?" asked one of the guards. "I just received a message from MmWhat saying that he'll be coming to steal the gemmed scepter tonight." "Not to worry, sir, he won't be able to get past us," said the other security guard. "That's what you said last time and he got away with that priceless painting," said the apparent curator. Behind the hallway, Naruto and Rainbow Dash were listening in on the conversation attentively, then they looked at each other and nodded in affirmation as they left the building back to the hotel. "So he'll be coming tonight, huh? That's when we'll catch him," said Rainbow Dash. "Yeah, so we'll be staking out the museum tonight," said Naruto. Hours later and Celestia's sun went down with Luna's moon rising into the night sky. Naruto and Rainbow Dash were perched on top of a building and looking down below at the museum, where they saw a lot of the security guards patrolling the area with searchlights around the place. "Whoa, these guys really came prepared," said Rainbow Dash. "True, though it would have been easy for me," said Naruto amusedly. "Heh, we both know that your ninja skills would have gotten you in and out without a hitch." Next thing they knew was that the power was suddenly cut off and lights went out, covering the place in darkness. Naruto immediately activated his aura side and saw multiple magic signatures running around confusedly, telling him that those are the security guards. But there was one magic signature that was moving in a well-coordinated manner away from the others which piqued his curiosity. He saw it move around and stopped in one place before moving again, but this time at a much faster rate and was soon out of the building, which was more than enough to tell him exactly who it was. "Ash, let's go. Umbra has stolen the scepter and is on the move." Naruto took off, leaping from one roof to the other. "Gotcha." Rainbow Dash flew after him in anticipation of her second encounter with the thief. Elsewhere, MmWhat had just landed on top of a skyscraper with a black satchel at his side. He pushed up the goggles to his forehead and turned to look at it with a non-visible smirk of his face. "Once more a successful operation. These goggles certainly make my job much easier than ever before. Too bad that they weren't able to give me a good chase since I wasn't seen. Oh well, I'll return to the hideout and get ready to cash it in," said Umbra. He was about to leave when a voice suddenly called out from behind. "Not so fast, MmWhat." He turned towards the voice to see a familiar Pegasus. He was about to greet her when some pony landed next to her. It was a male unicorn with an orange coat and yellow spiky mane, while wearing an orange and black hoodie jacket, a medallion, headband, and a pair of goggles similar to the one that he stole from the Pegasus. "Ah, my dear Rainbow Pursuer, you came just like I thought, and I see that you brought along company. So pray tell, who might he be?" asked Umbra. Rainbow Dash was about to introduce Naruto, but he beat her to it. "The name's Naruto Uzumaki and Dash just so happens to be my best friend. I came along to help catch you and take back her goggles." He glared at the unicorn heatedly, especially for that nickname he gave to Rainbow Dash. "Ah, so you must be the famous Naruto Uzumaki, the owner of the whirlpool, as well as the creator of those special crystals. They may not be gems, but they certainly possess great value amongst the nobles, not to mention that you made these goggles, which I must say is of great help in my work," said Umbra. "Yeah, well, not for long, we're gonna get my goggles back and return the scepter to the museum," said Rainbow Dash. "Like I said before, I would like to see you try my Rainbow Pursuer." "Stop calling her me that." Both Naruto and Rainbow Dash yelled simultaneously. "Oh my, did I strike a nerve?" Both ponies decided to stop talking and charged straight at the thief, who turned to run and jumped off the roof onto another one. Naruto did the same much more easily, since it's nothing compared to what he does back at Konoha. They moved around any obstacles like water towers or vents, while jumping from roof to roof. Naruto saw for himself how Umbra's movement shares similarities to his freerunning skills. Umbra vaulted over 2 rows of vents before finding himself at the edge of the building, however the gap between it and the other building ahead was too big for him to jump across. Umbra gazed downwards for a split second before taking a running start and jumping of the edge. Naruto skidded to a stop to see Umbra land on a fire escape and proceeded to climb up before diving into an open window. Naruto was impressed but performed a chakra-enhanced jump as well, then used a Pegasus dash and dive into the window too, and resumed the pursuit through the hallway of the apartment. So Rainbow Dash remained outside, but flew round to the other side of the building, in hopes of heading the thief off. The duo crossed through the hallways while somersaulting and vaulting over card boxes and luggage obstructing the path. Umbra fired a magic bolt to blast open a window which he jumped through, then he shot out an enchanted rope to latch onto the edge of roof and zipped up to it. He heard the sound of flapping and quickly jumped to the side right as a rainbow blur passed by before slowing down to reveal that it was Rainbow Dash. "You're not getting away." She launched a straight punch at Umbra, who ducked under it and retaliated with a punch of his own. She flapped her wings hard enough to move backwards and out of range before planting both hind legs on the ground, then kicked off to lunge at him. Umbra fired a rope with the intention of binding her, but this time Rainbow Dash was ready as she performed a barrel roll to evade before landing a punch on the chest. Umbra grunted in pain from the impact. He raised a hoof and several ropes shot of the sleeve at her, but then something whizzed past and sliced the rope to bits before embedding into the wall, revealing to be black metallic throwing stars. He glanced to the side and noticed Naruto running towards them. "Hiding both of them at the same time won't end well for me. I need to keep away from them," thought Umbra. He flicked his sleeve a bit for a gray ball to fall out and suddenly release a cloud of black smoke to impede their vision. Naruto formed chakra arms and weaved through a set of hand signs wind style. Wind blast. He breathed in before opening his mouth to expel a gust of air to blow away the smoke to reveal only Rainbow Dash, but no sign of Umbra. He looked around sharply until he caught sight of the thief swinging away on one of his enchanted ropes. "He's heading that way, come on Dash." Rainbow Dash flew after him, and for Naruto, he jumped off the roof and landed on the side of a building using chakra to cling onto it before running after them whilst jumping from one side of the building to the other. The chase took them all the way to a major commercial intersection which is brightly adorned with billboards and advertisements. Umbra continued to swing and took to the left with Rainbow Dash close behind. But the gap between buildings being too wide, Naruto jumped off the side which he was currently on towards on, then he channeled chakra to his forehooves to form hands which grabbed onto a streetlight to swing from one to another till he was back on top of the rooftops. Umbra was at the arc of his swing when something whizzed by and cut it, forcing him to land roughly on the ground. He got to see Naruto and Rainbow Dash standing before him with frowns on their faces. "I have to admit, nobody has ever given me such a chase unlike you two since the start of my career," said Umbra. "Thanks for the compliment, but we'll be taking back my goggles and the scepter," said Rainbow Dash. "I would like to, but..." "But what?" asked Naruto cautiously. "What? I have a train to catch." Umbra took a step back over the edge of the roof. "Oh no you don't." Rainbow Dash and Naruto lunged forward in an attempt to grab him, however Umbra took out a yellow ball from his vest and threw it at them to release a yellow cloud. Naruto got ready to blow the smoke away, but Rainbow Dash suddenly flew through it and started moving around sluggishly. "Dash, what are you, whoa?" Naruto shot out a chakra tendril to wrap around Rainbow Dash and pull her back before she crashed into a building and watched as MmWhat landed on top of a train which sped along an elevated railway as he made his getaway with an invisible smirk on his face. Naruto looked back at Rainbow Dash to see that her eyes were glazed over and started to shake her. "Hey Dash, snap out of it." She finally came back to normal and looked around confusedly. "How what? Naruto, what happened and where's Umbra?" asked Rainbow Dash. "He used some sort of powder that you jumped through and it made you start acting weird. I had to catch you when you were about to crash into a building, so he got away," said Naruto. "What? And we were so close too. We need to go after him," she yelled in frustration. "No, right now we'll need to return to the hotel and rest before planning our next move. Who knows what side effect that powder would have on you." But Rainbow Dash wanted to protest, but Naruto's look of concern placated her to nod reluctantly and they made their way back to the hotel. Naruto checked to make sure that she was okay before going to bed, but Rainbow Dash remained awake and was looking out the window for a little while longer before finally going to sleep as well. Morning had arrived and Naruto woke up feeling refreshed. He turned to greet Rainbow Dash, only to see that she was gone, much to his shock. "Dash. Dash, where are you?" Naruto ran out of the room and into the streets, quickly activating his aura sight to track her down. It took him a while, but he finally located her magic signature and it was situated on top of a tall skyscraper with a giant sculpture of a horse's head on top. "What are you doing up there?" He started running at moderate speed towards the building to avoid attention from the passerbys. Upon arrival, he started running up the side of the building, not knowing that a young filly saw him and wondered if he was a superhero who was missing his costume. He finally got to the top and found Rainbow Dash sitting there, sensing the depression from her. "There you are Dash, I was looking for you." "Oh hey Naruto, I just wanted to be alone for a bit," said Rainbow Dash. "I understand, but you shouldn't let this bother you. We'll be sure to catch Umbra this time," said Naruto. He was surprised when she turned to look at him with eyes full of frustration. "But this is our last chance. If we lose then he gets to keep my goggles. They were a gift from you and it really upsets me that a thief is using it to steal stuff." Naruto walked over and sat next to her before using his tail to wrap around as a sign of comfort. "Don't say that, this isn't the confident speedster of Ponyville that I know. Now isn't the time for you to lose your confidence, but the time for you to get yourself fired up like you always do. We may have seen what he can do, but it's time for him to see what we can do. Besides, he got lucky since we couldn't really go full force or we might end up damaging part of the city." Rainbow Dash looked at Naruto's look of confidence and faith with wonder, then a smile slowly appeared on her face as she stood up and punched him lightly in the shoulder. "Yeah, you're right. I wasn't being myself until now. Time to show Umbra why I'm the fastest pony in all of Ponyville," said Rainbow Dash, full of her usual confidence. Naruto smirked in agreement. "You got that right. Now let's go get some food and prep for tonight." He started running back down the skyscraper with Rainbow Dash following him. Night fell once more over Manhattan. Naruto and Rainbow Dash were sitting on top of a building once again in anticipation of MmWhat's next move. "You got anything from your clones yet?" asked Rainbow Dash curiously. "Nothing yet Dash," Naruto replied. He had created shadow clones to stake out areas of great importance like jewelry stores, banks and others, since the museum had already been struck. So far he hasn't gotten any feedback from the "Hang on, I got him." He's on the run after stealing a large diamond from a jewelry store. "Okay then, lead the way." She followed after Naruto as he used the memories from the clone to trace Umbra for the final pursuit. It took a couple jumps and wall runs, but they soon located the evasive thief running along the rooftops. He skidded to a stop when they landed before him, looking ready as ever. "Back again, eh? You do know that this is your third and final attempt in capturing me and regaining your goggles, right?" asked Umbra. "Yeah, we know, but there's no way we're going to let you get away this time," said Naruto. "That's right, this time we're going for broke," said Rainbow Dash. "Very well then, let the final chase begin." The chase started once more, and it was apparent that Umbra had been holding back on their last pursuit, for he began by throwing red balls towards Naruto and Rainbow Dash, whilst a rope shot out from underneath his coat to latch onto another roof and was pulled towards it. Naruto formed a chakra arm to knock the red balls away with a backhand before they went after him. "Dash, curl up for a fastball," Naruto called out. Rainbow Dash immediately did so as he formed a chakra arm to grab her, then he took aim and flung her straight at Umbra. However, he seemed to have noticed as he darted to the side and was about to attack her, but then noticed a white rope made of energy attached to her. Rainbow Dash grabbed onto it and pulled as hard as she could, and Naruto came speeding towards Umbra and sent him flying with a shoulder barge. MmWhat flipped in midair and connected the magic from his horn onto the trench coat, causing it to harden, and was gliding away from them. Then he reached into his vest and started throwing multiple colored balls at them. Naruto and Rainbow Dash darted from side to side in order to avoid with the pony ninja, using the chakra tendrils to whip them out of the way before they discharged the powder. However, some had already discharged, and a gigantic multicolored cloud hovered between them and the thief. "How do we get past it?" asked Rainbow Dash worriedly. "Don't worry Dash, I got a jutsu just for this." Wind style. Wind tunnel jutsu. A large gust of wind swirled around Naruto before he thrust his forehooves forward, with the gust following his command to pierce through the cloud of power and forming a tunnel straight at Umbra. "Go get him Dash." "Got it." Rainbow Dash flew through the tunnel as fast as she could. Unexpectedly, the wind tunnel actually increased her velocity rapidly, to the point that no sooner did she exit from the tunnel that there was a loud bang, and a vibrantly colored ring expanded from the shockwave, and a rainbow wake trailed behind a surprised Rainbow Dash. "Did I just do the sonic rain boom?" Then she smirked sweet. "No ways Umbra getting away from me now." She was immediately upon a stunned Umbra and slammed right into him, sending the thief crashing into a rooftop. Umbra painfully got up to run again when he heard someone land in front of him and placed something on his forehead. Next thing he knew was that his body felt numb and he collapsed back on the ground, only able to look up at Naruto with Rainbow Dash landing next to him with smirks on their faces. "What did you do to me?" asked Umbra. "That's one of my seals, the paralysis tag. Anything it's placed on will lose the ability to move unless it is removed," said Naruto. "How was I able to go fast enough to perform the sonic rain boom?" asked Rainbow Dash curiously. "That's because of the wind tunnel jutsu. The space within it eliminates all friction in the air and seriously reduces the gravity, therefore increasing the velocity of any objects or creatures within. So you must have been able to perform the sonic rain boom much sooner than normal," Naruto explained. Rainbow Dash looked excited upon hearing the explanation. "That's so awesome. I can't wait to show the others when we get back to Ponyville." Umbra chuckled softly. "After many years, I've finally been caught, and yet it doesn't irk me. This is the most fun I've had in a long time." "Well, a deal is a deal, you may have your goggles back." Rainbow Dash gingerly reached over and took off the goggles before wearing it around her neck with a look of contentment. "Finally back where it belongs. Now then, to take you to the police station," said Naruto, using his to lift Umbra into the air. "Quite so, just know that when I'm free, I hope to engage you both in another chase," said Umbra. "We'll be waiting to take you on at any time," said Rainbow Dash with a look of competitiveness. Hours later, Naruto and Rainbow Dash were back on the train and returning to Ponyville. They had turned Umbra in at the police department, where the staff were stunned to see that the most evasive thief in records has been captured by 2 civilians. With Umbra actually approving that he was caught by them, the staff rewarded Naruto and Rainbow Dash with a large bag of bits. Strange thing to note is that they couldn't take off the mask, no matter how hard they tried. Back on the train, Naruto could see that Rainbow Dash had dozed off while leaning on his shoulder, but was clenching her goggles tightly, causing him to smile softly at her. It just goes to show him how much she valued his gift, which touched his heart rather deeply. "Even though I was mad at Umbra for stealing the goggles and even calling her that nickname, but to me you'll always be Rainbow Dash, the fastest pony in Ponyville and my speed queen." Naruto mumbled out a nickname which he had come up for her, but kept it a secret, knowing that she might be a bit embarrassed to hear it. Soon enough, he too fell asleep and leaned back against Rainbow Dash, with their heads touching each other as the train rumbled along the tracks back to Ponyville. It is another day in the life for the residents of Ponyville as every pony go about their daily activities once Celestia's sun rises horizon and is currently marking the time of noon as everyone is hard at work. One of them happens to be Naruto, who was currently walking down the street whilst levitating a small notepad and pencil with magic from his horn and reading some things off of it. Let's see, help Rare with some of her clothes design check, assist Pinks in baking pastries at the Sugar Cube corner check, deliver packages with Derpy check, race against Dash in a daily check. Naruto let out a sigh before chuckling to himself. Twilight must have rubbed off on me if I'm actually using a checklist to know what I've done and will be doing. Normally one would ask why the spiky maned stallion isn't at the whirlpool selling his custom crystals or even delivering them. He certainly has no trouble doing any of those things at all, but there are times when Naruto would want to get up and actually do something while on the go due to his nature or the strangely warm feeling that he gets when with Twilight and the others. But the same going for the princesses whenever he's over at Canterlot. Naruto snapped out of his musings and turned his attention back to the notepad for a quick once-over. Okay, what's left is apple bucking at Sweet Apple Acres, helping Shy care for the animals, and finally book arrangement at the library with Twilight, since Spike's bedridden from a stomachache. Dude really needs to watch how he puts away those gems. Anyways, I better get a move on. He proceeded to trot in direction of the Sweet Apple Acres. Upon arrival, Naruto was greeted with the sight of Granny Smith at the porch and reclining on a rocking chair with a look of contentment, so he happily called out to her, "Hiya Granny Smith." The elderly mare perked up to see the stallion waving at her and responded just as happily, "Well, howdy do sonny. I reckon that you're looking for Applejack, she's over at the orchard with Big Mac. Thanks Granny, I'm heading over there right now. Naruto was about to trot away when Granny Smith called out to him again. Oh, and be sure to come over for dinner tonight, I'll be cooking up my special recipe of apple pies. The long trail of drool leaked out from the corner of Naruto's lips before slurping it up as he nodded mirthfully. I definitely will, be sure to save some for me. He trotted away, giddy at the thought of eating one of Granny Smith's scrumptiously cooked meals. He trotted past the red barn and found his way into the apple orchard, where he saw Applejack currently kicking her hind legs against an apple tree, causing the apples to be knocked down into the buckets placed below, and Big Mac pulling a cart along. Naruto approached whilst calling out to them, "Hey guys." Applejack turned towards the voice and smiled upon seeing who it was. "Howdy Naruto, good to see you." Yep, Big Mac nodded in agreement to his sister's words as he chewed on his straw. "Me too, had to do some activities before coming over to help out with the apple bucking," said Naruto. Applejack quirked an eyebrow in confusion. "Really, I reckoned that you would send your shadow clones to help." "Nah, makes me feel kinda lazy, so I preferred to do it on my own. Don't want to be as lazy as my former sensei." Applejack nodded in approval of Naruto's statement. "A fine reason if I do say so myself, let's get to bucking." "Sure thing." Naruto strode towards an apple tree with buckets placed around it. He shifted his weight to his forehooves, then spun around before lashing out with his hind legs to kick at the trunk, with the impact strong enough to make the apples fall into the buckets neatly. Naruto smiled in satisfaction, but knew that there are more apples to harvest as he turned towards the numerous trees ahead. After a couple hours of apple bucking, it was time for Naruto to carry on with the remaining activities. "I gotta go now guys, there's still some more tasks for me to carry out," said Naruto. "Okay, but I reckon that you'll be coming back later, right?" said Applejack. Naruto nodded in affirmation. "Yeah, Granny invited me over for dinner tonight. Definitely can't afford to pass up the chance of eating one of her special apple pies." Applejack giggled quietly at the dreamy look in the stallion's eyes. Even Big Mac chuckled in amusement. "Okay, but you better be early or we just might eat it all up." Naruto feinted shock at her joke. "Oh no AJ, please don't take away my piece of heaven." Applejack laughed out loud with Big Mac and Naruto himself joining in as well for a few moments before calming. "Okay, I'll catch you later." He waved at them before trotting away to his next destination to meet up with Fluttershy at her home to help out with the animal. Later on when Celestia's sun had set and Luna's moon rose, Naruto was back at Sweet Apple Acres and sitting at the dining table with the family. After eating dinner and having apple pie for dessert, everyone were exchanging stories with each other and most came from Naruto as he's been around a lot today. Every pony was currently laughing at what Naruto had experienced over at Fluttershy's place. "I'm telling you, every time I look away, one of the birds would sit on my head with one actually trying to build a nest on it," said Naruto. "Maybe one of them wanted a mobile home," Apple Bloom giggled out loud. "Maybe if you cut your mane down a bit, they might leave you alone," said Big Mac in amusement. Naruto protested. "No way. I like my mane the way it is. Rare already tried to make me take a cut and I wouldn't allow that." "I gotta admit, Naruto would look weird with his mane cut short," said Applejack. Naruto nodded in agreement with her statement. "Exactly. Even Dash told me I looked cooler with my mane spiked up." Granny Smith was watching all this and laughed out loud. "Ah, to be young and active, makes me look back when I was a filly and caused all sorts of trouble. Which reminds me, have I ever told y'all about the scarlet apple?" Every pony turned towards the elderly mare with a look of confusion and mild curiosity. "You never told us of any scarlet apple, Granny," said Applejack. "Yep," said Big Mac. "So what's the deal about this scarlet apple?" asked Applebloom. "This tale dates back to when your great-great-great-grandmama, there were legends about a forest where spirits of nature live and deep within is an apple tree which grows apples so delicious that not even the princess's golden apples could match a bite of them." Everyone's widened at such a proclamation, Applejack mostly. If these apples were so delicious, how come she hadn't heard of it? Her interest in the story has grown immensely as she paid rapt attention. "What is the name of the forest that the scarlet apple grew in?" asked Naruto curiously. "It is called the Whispering Woods because of the voices belonging to the spirits being heard whenever a pony goes inside," said Granny. "But Granny, if this apple is so great then how come we don't have it?" asked Applebloom. "That's because many years later, the voices were no longer heard and whosoever enters the forest never come back out. Which is why the name Whispering Woods changed into Whispered Woods." Sounds like something bad had happened to the spirits inside the forest," said Naruto. "Right you are Sonny, and because of that the scarlet apple's existence became nothing more than a fairy tale. But I can tell ya, they exist," said Granny, though the strange thing is her grandma had forgotten about the story some time ago. After a little more conversation, it was time for Naruto to make his way back home to catch some sleep for the next day. As always, okay, good night every pony. I'll see you all in the morning. "Yep," said Big Mac in affirmation. "Good night, Naruto," said Applebloom. "Yeah, good night, Naruto," Applejack responded rather distractedly. Naruto blinked in mild confusion but decided to ask later for the reason. Till then he left Sweet Apple Acres and made his way back home. The next morning, Naruto woke and performed the daily routine of taking a bath, cleaning up the rooms with a few shadow clones pitching in, making breakfast for Scootaloo, Trixie and himself. At the moment, Naruto was taking Scootaloo to school, while Trixie headed for the shop to open it up for business. "Alright Scoots, I'll see you later, okay?" said Naruto. "Okay big bro, I'll be at the CMC clubhouse after school." Scootaloo waved at him before trotting into the schoolhouse with Naruto watching on before turning to leave when he saw Applebloom and Big Mac walking up to him. "Morning guys, say where's Applejack? Doesn't she normally come along?" asked Naruto curiously. "My sister's been acting weird since last night's dinner and this morning she rushed through the chores before running off saying that she has something to do which I find kinda weird," said Applebloom. "Yep," said Big Mac. "That does sound unlike her. I'll check up on AJ when I run into her," said Naruto. Then he thought, could it be about the story Granny Smith told us about? He said his goodbyes to both and headed over to the whirlpool and began work on creating custom crystals and overlooking the requests and delivery of the ordered crystals. After a while of organizing, he was snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Trixie call out to him. "Naruto, Twilight wants to see you," said Trixie. "Okay, I'm coming." Naruto got up from his seat and strode over to the counter where he saw Twilight having a short conversation with Trixie. "Hi Twilight, so what's up that you wanted to talk to me?" "Well, I was at the library this morning when Applejack came in and asked for maps concerning the Whispered Woods. She was so focused that I don't think she even heard me asking her what it was that she was looking for before leaving. So I came over to ask if you know what's going on with her," said Twilight. "It might have to do with that story that Granny Smith told us over at dinner last night. She was really paying attention to it," said Naruto. "Story? What is it about?" asked Trixie. Naruto proceeded to tell them about the Scarlet Apple, which of course surprised them, mostly Twilight. "How come I've never heard it? I'll need to check on the books to learn more about this." "I'll see you later." Twilight left the shop in direction of the library to do just that. "What do you think Applejack might do?" asked Trixie. "I'm not too sure, but I might need to check up on her just to make sure," said Naruto. "Say Naruto, Trixie wanted to ask if you would be willing to escort her to Canterlot to get something when you're free." Trixie looked nervous when she asked. Naruto simply smiled. "Sure thing, when I'm done I can have a shadow clone watch the place and we can go together." Trixie's heart was beating fast as she nervously waited for his answer and had to keep herself from leaping with joy when he responded positively to her request. "That's great. Trixie will be ready when you're done." Then she thought, this is perfect. Now Trixie has a chance to spend time alone with him. "Okay, I'll see you later." Naruto left the shop and took the route to the Sweet Apple Acres. Then he used his aura sight to search for Applejack and found her magic signature over at the orchard. He heading over there and found her looking at the map which she had taken from Twilight's library. "Hey AJ, what are you up to?" Applejack looked up to see Naruto approaching her. "Oh howdy there, Naruto. Just looking at this here map." "Yeah, Twilight told me about and she also told me that you acting a bit strange. Even Applebloom and Big Mac said the same thing when I met up with them," said Naruto. Applejack looked a bit sheepish at that. "Sorry about that, it's just that Granny's story has got me thinking. If I were to go and find the Scarlet Apple, it would really help the farm. I guess I wasn't really paying much attention since I was thinking so much." "Surely you weren't planning to go alone, were you? Remember what Granny said, those who go into the Whispered Woods never come back out," said Naruto. "Oh no, I wasn't planning on going there alone. I've learned my lesson already, so I was going to ask you to come along with me to search for the Scarlet Apple together." Naruto's eyes widened in surprise, but won't it help that Twilight and the others come along to help? "No problem, I'm sure we can handle this on our own. Besides we can handle whatever could be inside the forest," said Applejack. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, feeling rather unsure of himself. He was able to take care of himself whenever he trains in the Evertree Forest, with Applejack being able to handle most thanks to his training. However, this is a new area both haven't been to before with little knowledge of the place. This might require some serious preparations if he's to go there. "Fine, we'll go, but we'll need to prepare carefully because this might be more than evicting a dragon." "That's for sure," said Naruto. "But I know we can handle whatever comes our way," said Applejack confidently. "So when you plan on us leaving?" asked Naruto. "We'll leave tomorrow. The Whispered Woods is 3 days away from the west of Ponyville by walking," said Applejack. "In that case, I'll go and prepare my gear for the journey then. See you tomorrow AJ," said Naruto. "I've a feeling that there's more to this than we might even know." "Okay Naruto," Applejack resumed looking at the map as Naruto left. Back at home, Naruto was currently in the workshop looking over the table which his chosen equipment are laid out. Those were his ninja tools, scrolls, seal tags, crystals of varying functions, camp gear and etc. He was halfway through storing the selected equipment into his medallion when the door opened up and Scootaloo walked in. "Hey there Scoots, how's your day been?" asked Naruto while still storing the items away. "Hi big bro, normal as always and still no good leads to getting our cutie marks," said Scootaloo before looking at Naruto curiously. "Are you preparing to go out on another adventure?" "Something like that, Applejack and I are in search of something extremely rare," said Naruto. "Can I come along this time?" asked Scootaloo. "Sorry Scoots, but no. Where Applejack and I are going, neither of us know it very well, and there's the high potential danger there." Naruto had finished storing the equipment away and looked up to see Philly deflate in disappointment. "Hey now, there's no need to be so down. Remember that I promised to bring you along to Winsome Falls to watch me do my ninja training." That rose her spirits back up. "Yeah, I almost forgot about that. That's right, I needed to get back into training anyways. So when I'm free, we'll go together." "Great, I can't wait for that to happen. And I'll also be waiting to hear of your expedition with Applejack when you get back." "Sure thing, Scoots. Now go back upstairs and wash up, my shadow clone has just finished with dinner right now and has set up the table too," said Naruto upon receiving the memories of his dispelled clone. "Okay, I'm totally starved." Scootaloo galloped up the stairs in direction of the dining room with Naruto close behind as they joined Trixie for dinner. The former showmare was a bit let down upon learning that he was traveling again, but cheered up when he reassured her that he'll accompany her when he returns. The next day when Celestia's sun slowly poked out from beyond the horizon, Naruto was woken by a preset alarm which got smashed before being tossed into a growing heap of them. He took his bath, then went for a cup of coffee to erase any trace of sleep. Afterwards he bade Scootaloo and Trixie farewell before leaving the house and leaving for the outskirts of Ponyville to find Applejack already there waiting for him. "Howdy Naruto, you ready to go?" asked Applejack. "Yup, I'm all set so let's get moving," said Naruto. Both ponies nodded towards each other before turning to walk down the dirt road away from Ponyville towards their destination, which is the Whispered Woods. It has only been a day since Naruto and Applejack left Ponyville. They traversed through many prairies, mountainsides and many more. Right now the duo are currently making camp next to a lake with Applejack cooking dinner and Naruto setting up the tents with some help from his shadow clones. After pitching in the last one, Naruto wiped some sweat off his face with his tail. "Phew, it was a real scorcher out here," said Naruto. "You're right about that, a dip in the lake will cool us off." Applejack looked up from the pot which she was paying attention to over the fire. "In that case, I'm going in first." Naruto took off his jacket, headband and goggles before leaping into the lake with a splash before floating back to the surface with a look of contentment. "Ah, this feels so good. Better not stay in for long, the food is almost ready," said Applejack. "Sure thing AJ." Naruto swam around for a bit before finally climbing out of the lake. Applejack turned to see Naruto shake his body rapidly as droplets of water flew off his mane and sparkled in the sunlight, giving him an alluring appearance. Sweet Celestia Applejack's face was bright red and her heart was hammering against her ribcage very hard at such a breathtaking scene that she wasn't aware of Naruto approaching her while using a towel to dry the rest of the moisture off his body with his magic. "Hey AJ, I'm done with." Naruto noticed that she wasn't paying attention and waved a hoof over her face. "AJ, are you okay?" Applejack finally snapped back to normal and her blush grew even more with Naruto standing so close to her. I'm just fine and dandy Naruto, nothing to worry about. I'm taking a dip too while you dish out the food into the bowls." She ran past Naruto and jumped into the lake with her hat still on, much to the confusion of the stallion. "I always thought that Naruto was good looking, but I never thought that he would look so I can't even bring myself to think it. I don't know what's up with AJ, but I gotta admit that seeing her so flustered like that is pretty cute," thought Naruto with a pink tinge on his cheeks. Later that night, Naruto and Applejack were having dinner, but it was a pretty awkward one with both ponies throwing glances at each other while trying to be unnoticeable about it. This kept on going till they finally finished eating and quickly went into their tents after cleaning the utensils and bidding each other goodnight. The next morning, they woke up and packed their camping gear, then sealed them into their medallions before resuming their journey, and they could talk to each other like they normally would. Passing through several more prairies, rivers and valleys. Applejack and Naruto stood on a tall hill as the former looked through the map. According to the map. The Whispered Woods is straight ahead from here." Applejack looked up from the map and pointed ahead for Naruto to look. There they saw a rather huge woodland several miles ahead from where they stood. That's the place, huh?" asked Naruto, looking at the place with caution. "Yep, the Scarlet Apple must lie deep within it," said Applejack. It took the duo a while to walk, but they eventually arrived at the very edge of the forestry. It was a bit dark for them to peer through within it, and so far they haven't heard of any sounds of whispering from the spirits. We should be very careful once we're inside AJ, there might be something more than just spirits inside the forest, said Naruto. Gotcha, we'll watch each other's backs in there, said Applejack. Naruto nodded in affirmation before the two walked into the forest with tempered determination to face down any oppositions they would encounter. It has been about an hour since their entry into the Whispered Woods, and so far there was nothing out of their perspective of ordinary. The atmosphere was very silent and slightly nerve-wracking. Naruto's ears twitched to listen for any unusual sounds nearby and scoped their surroundings just as well. His tail waved around, but ready at any time to reach into his ninja pouch for a ninja tool or crystal for defense. Applejack was just as twitchy. The silence was really hard to get used to as she kept her trusty lasso close by for use. Wait. Applejack was startled when Naruto used his tail to wrap around her and quickly pulled back to his side without warning. She turned towards and noticed that he was staring at something with a frown on his face. She looked to see a layer of fallen leaves ahead of them. What is it, Naruto? Did you see something? Asked Applejack. Something like that, hold up a minute, shadow clone jutsu. Naruto created clone which strode towards while grumbling a bit about paranoid originals. When it stepped on the leaves, something burst from the ground without warning and scooped the clone up in a net to hang from a rope overhead. What the hey? Applejack was stunned at the sight. She wasn't expecting anything like that at all. I noticed that the leaves weren't lying ground like they had fallen from the branches, but more like someone laid them there, said Naruto, as his shadow clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Hold up a minute, you mean that there's some pony living in this forest? It makes sense because I pretty much doubt that spirits would have need for traps. Then the question now is who lives here? Asked Applejack. Naruto was about to reply. Aye. The duo were surprised to hear what sounds to be the scream of a female, and Naruto's sensor ability suddenly picked up two emotions, one of fear and the other of hatred. I think we're about to find out, come on AJ. Naruto took off with Applejack galloping next to him as he led the way to the source of the sound. They drew close to the source which happened to be in a small clearing, and there they saw something that the duo had never encountered till now. Leaning against a tree and quivering in fear is what appears to be a feminine humanoid with a greenish skin color. Her arms and legs are plant-like appendages that look like wood, and her hair appear to be made of green leaves. Her state of dress appears to be a green sundress, with a skirt reaching just below her knees, which seems to have been sewn from a giant leaf. Looming is a creature with the upper body of a man, and yet possessing the brown furred hind legs, head and gray horns of a goat. It wears a loincloth made from animal skin as it wielded a tomahawk. What are they? Asked Applejack curiously. Don't know, but we need to help her out. I reel him then you go for the knockout, Naruto replied with the mare nodding in affirmation. Naruto then shot out a chakra tendril which wrapped around the arm holding the tomahawk, much to its surprise. He jerked it back as the creature was pulled towards them while screaming all the way, then Applejack spun around to lash out with her hind legs to plant a double kick into its face, resulting in an audible crack and the second unknown creature to slump to the ground and laid there unmoving. The duo quickly moved in with Applejack using an extra rope to bind it, while Naruto slapped a paralysis tag for total immobility before turning to the second unknown creature, who was looking at them in shock. You two are ponies, we haven't seen your kind for so many years since that day. Oh, thank you for saving me from that satyr, said the plant-like creature happily bowing to them. You're welcome, so that there's a satyr, but who and what are you? Asked Applejack. Oh. My name is Ptelia and I'm a nymph, said the now introduced Ptelia. A nymph? I've never heard of y'all before, said Applejack. What? You haven't heard of us? Well, it shouldn't be a surprise with what the satyrs did, Ptelia looked down sadly. Hang on, I had Twilight make a copy of an encyclopedia on the mythological supernatural. Release encyclopedia. A wide orb of light emerged from the medallion and transformed into a large volume book which he levitated with his magic and started flipping through the pages, much to the nymphs all at sea here. Aha. Nymph spirits of nature and protectors of springs, mountains, grottos and trees, the sea and rivers. They're known to be kind-hearted and caring, but would punish any that would harm nature. Is that right? Asked Naruto after reading. Ptelia nodded happily. That's about right. Back then we got along with the ponies, especially the earth ponies, since they interacted with the earth just like we do. Sounds pretty dandy. Then what's a satyr? Asked Applejack, seeing Ptelia frown from the question. Naruto flipped through the pages, then stopped to read. Satyrs, while also connected with nature, these creatures share an enmity with nymphs due to their selfishness and overbearing obscenity. They just don't know how to take no for an answer and leave us alone, plus they take food from the earth ponies out of greed and drink wine which is forbidden in our presence. We nymphs always made sure that the satyrs stay away from the Whispering Woods until that day came, said Ptelia, angry at first but became sad in the end of her sentence. What happened? Asked Applejack. It was many years ago, we nymphs were preparing for the arrival of the saplings for the young nymphs with epimeliades, our queen of the forest, when the satyrs came into the forest with ill intentions. We rose to fight back, but then some of those abominable brutes held some of the saplings hostage and threatened to harm them unless we surrendered to them. Our queen had no other choice but to comply with some of us fleeing to escape capture. We waited in hopes of the ponies coming to our aid, but the satyrs revealed that they had used a special concoction which erased any memories of our existence with the ponies, said Pteleus sadly. Why those no good. Naruto gritted his teeth in anger. How could they do something like that? Applejack was just as angry. But what made you two come here if we were to be forgotten? Asked Pteleus curiously. My granny told a story about you and the scarlet apples, so I invited Naruto along to see if the tale is true and if it's possible to find some of the apples, said Applejack. Pteleus' eyes widened in surprise. Our queen produces those apples, but she's in captivity and can't fight back as long as the saplings are still held hostage. Then we'll just have to save those saplings and give everyone that chance, said Naruto. You'll help us? We already started helping when we saved you from that satyr, and we ain't stopping now, said Applejack with Naruto nodding in agreement. Pteleus bowed to them with tears flowing. Thank you very much. Okay, could you lead me to where the saplings are held? I'll have AJ and a shadow clone search for the satyr's hamlet, said Naruto, then creating a shadow clone which stood next to Applejack. I can't go too far from my tree, but maybe placing a part of it on your person can fix that. Pteleus waved a hand, and a vine adorned with flowers grew from the tree behind her and wrapped around Naruto's left hoof before detaching from the main body. The nymph transformed into a green orb and floated ahead of him. Come this way. Be careful, Naruto, said Applejack. I'll be okay, AJ, I'll be over soon, said Naruto before following after Pteleus. Let's get going then. See, Naruto nodded in affirmation Applejack's statement and activated his aura sight and began the search for the satyrs. Naruto and Pteleus silently traversed the forest whilst keeping an eye and ear out for any patrolling satyr. Naruto wanted to use the trees, but Pteleus alerted him that some of them belonged to the hidden nymphs, so he resorted to the old-fashioned walking for the meantime. It took them a while, but Pteleus suddenly stopped and transformed into a much smaller version of herself as she pointed ahead. Over there, that's where the saplings are kept prisoners, said Pteleus. Naruto looked ahead to see several satyrs standing guard in front of a barricade made out of large stones, well equipped with tomahawks, spears and daggers. Naruto's ears could pick out sounds of crying, which truly enraged him to no end, as memories of when Gato suppressed the land of waves came across his mind. I'm getting them out of there. Naruto went several steps back and formed his chakra wings and took to the air till he was right above the forest itself. Shadow clone jutsu. A squad of clones appeared flying next to him. Half of you guard the saplings and the rest of you guys are with me, let's go. Roger, boss. The clones responded. Down below, one of the satyrs with a spear yawned loudly before taking a swig of wine from the gourd strapped to the waistline of his loincloth. This is so irksome, we have been guarding these saplings for years now, said the satyr. Another satyr with a dagger turned towards his companion with a quirked eyebrow. What would you expect when a perfect plan results in no true opposition towards us? It's not like something will drop out from the sky. At that moment, something did fall from the sky and land on the ground right in front of them, while forming a small crater and dust cloud. Next thing they knew was that something flew out of the dust cloud and slammed into the face of one of them to be sent flying. The cloud cleared to reveal something they never thought to see again. The pony, that's not possible, said the satyr. Quite the contrary, and you might want to look up, said the orange pony. The satyr pointed his spear at the enemy like I would fall for such a. He felt something impact the back of his head which drove it straight to the ground, knocking him unconscious, which turned out to be another pony similar to the first. Naruto heard the sound of running and turned to see a group of satyrs running towards them whilst brandishing their weapons. He smirked as his tail reached into the ninja pouch and took out a flash crystal which he threw at their feet, unleashing a flare of blinding light that forcing them to halt and close their eyes in pain. Then the rest of the clones landed next to Naruto before charging straight at the satyrs and unleashing an onrush of punches and kicks. Naruto himself joined in as he lunged at one of the satyrs and slammed a haymaker punch on him, then used his tail to wrap around the hoof of another and swung around to throw him into the cohorts. Soon enough, all of the satyrs laid on the ground in a heap while being tied up in ninja wire and paralysis tags placed on each and every one of them. Naruto and clones turned their attention towards the stone barricade, with chakra arms emerging from their backs as they proceeded to tear it down piece by piece until there was nothing left. Beyond it were Pteleus and the clones comforting the much younger nymphs who were cheering happily, and the saplings appeared to be in good conditions despite not having been properly nurtured all those years. It looks like everyone's okay now, said Naruto, looking relieved. Thank you very much for saving us, Mr. Pony, said one of the young nymphs with a smile. I've sent a message from my tree to the other nymphs, telling them of the good news so they're on their way here. I thought you guys can't leave your trees a far distance? Asked Naruto confused. Some of them are actually able to do so unlike me, since I'm still younger in a certain perspective, Telly replied. Naruto simply shrugged. I'll leave my clones here to make sure of your safety while I go and give those satyrs what for. Be sure to add in a few for me. With relish, Naruto turned around and took off at high speed after channeling chakra to his hooves for a boost towards where Applejack and his shadow clone had headed off to in search of the satyr's hamlet. Meanwhile, Applejack and Naruto had been tracking down the location of the satyrs until they eventually found where they were. Hidden behind the thick shrubs so as not to be seen, they could see multiple tents strewn throughout the large clearing with the largest tent at the other end. Many satyrs were dancing around a large bonfire while playing reed pipes and drinking wine in a festive atmosphere. They also another of the nymphs, but this one is taller than Ptelia with pale skin color and actual hair, long enough to reach the ground, and is as wide as the apple blossoms. She wears a laurel wreath adorned with many flowers. A red gown covering her feet and could trail along the ground. As of now, she looks down at the ground in sorrow while shackled from the left leg to a large boulder next to her. That must be the queen of the forest Epimeliades. How much longer until Naruto and Ptelia rescue the saplings? Asked Applejack. I just received memories from my fellow clones that the rescue is a success and the boss is already on his way here. He'll strike the campsite any minute from now, said Naruto. He better be here soon, I can't take any more of this watching, said Applejack. Not a moment too soon that an orange blur ran past their hiding place straight into the camp. There were some satyrs which had the misfortune to be in its path and got slammed into and sent flying into the air before crashing back on the ground. The blur slowed down till it revealed to be a pony, much to everyone's shock except Applejack. So much for a dramatic entrance, said Naruto nonchalantly. What is a pony doing here? They weren't supposed to remember this place, said one of the satyrs. Your plan wasn't exactly a 100% foolproof, Naruto quipped, which annoyed them. Seize him. The satyrs charged at him with weapons in hand. That would be a problem because multi-shadow clone jutsu. In a poof which cleared to reveal a multitude of clones, much to the shock of the opposition. Which one of us are you going to seize? Then Applejack walked up next to the original. You ain't leaving me out of this one, said Applejack. No problem AJ, there's enough to go around. Naruto turned towards the satyrs with a hoof pointed at them and uttered a battle cry charge. He and the others rushed forwards with the satyrs rushing back at them, with both sides clashing in the middle. Music start. Naruto original soundtrack, Saratobi. It was a full-scale battle with both oppositions fighting to get an edge over the over, but so far Naruto's side is gradually gaining that edge. Naruto himself was rapidly punching at some of the satyrs with his chakra arms, then he quickly jumped high into the air to avoid thrusts from multiple spears aimed at him from all directions. He reached into his pouch and took out several impulse crystals which he tossed below to unleash a chain of non-lethal blasts to knock them. He landed back on the ground and formed a pair of chakra arms which proceeded to weave through a set of hand signs, and the air started swirling around him wind style. Divine wind. 4 pillars of spiraling wind conjured around Naruto before he directed in different directions as they swallowed the satyrs, who are unable to escape from the elemental ninjutsu. With Applejack, she was putting Naruto's training to good use as she evaded the incoming attacks before countering with powerful strikes of her own. She heard something whistling in the air and quickly ducked to avoid a thrown tomahawk, then turned to charge at the thrower to deal a powerful punch to knock it down for the count. Applejack reached for a lasso and started twirling over her head. Yeehaw. Then she flung it to snag a satyr which was pulled over before she dealt a double kick to send him flying into his cohorts. Back with Naruto, he was wielding the Hashi no Ha to slice the satyr's weapons apart to disarm before either punching or kicking them for the knockout. Suddenly he saw a large shadow looming over him from behind and quickly dashed away to evade an overhead blow which struck right where he stood. He turned around to see a satyr much larger and burlier than the other. In each hand he wields a battle axe while donning steel armor over his loincloth. I'm guessing that you're the leader? Asked Naruto while remaining in his fighting stance. The armored satyr nodded in affirmation. Indeed, I am Zrak, the leader of the satyrs. It was foolish of you to raise your blade against my tribe, and now you shall pay the price with your life. And do that, especially since this actually my second, Naruto retorted. Zrak let out a roar before charging towards Naruto and swung a battle axe at him, but the stallion jumped away from the first swing and then deflected the second with a glaive. Naruto spun around with his tail low for a sweep, only for Zrak to jump into the air and come down with a double descending strike. 2 chakra tendrils shot out to hook the ground, then pull Naruto away from the attack before launching him back like a slingshot as he slammed into the satyr's head and somersaulted away to avoid potential retaliation. The armored satyr in his rage flung one of the tomahawks straight at Naruto, who channeled magic from his horn and called Terra Bunker. He punched the ground as he was enclosed in a dome made of earth in time for the airborne tomahawk to bounce off and clatter to the ground. Zrak rushed forward and proceeded to punch wildly at the dome until it crumbled to the ground, but there was no sign of the pony anyway. Suddenly he heard a sound from behind and then felt something latch to his back before agonizing blows began to pelt at his head. He flailed wildly in attempt to grab the cause of the attacks, then it jumped away to land elsewhere. Zrak turned around to see that it was Naruto who smirked with mischief. "You're truly becoming an irritation, little pony," said Zrak angrily. "I seem to get that a lot from my opponents, so you're not the first," Naruto replied. Elsewhere, Epimeliades watched the battle with worry as well as hope when she heard something land next to her and turned to see that it was one of those duplicates that the orange unicorn had created using his magic. "Who are you?" "The name's Naruto Uzumaki. My friend Applejack and I came here looking for the Scarlet Apple after hearing a story from Granny Smith when we found one of your nymphs, Ptelia, about to be captured by a satyr, and we rescued her. Then she told us what's been going on, also you don't have to worry about the saplings cause they're safe now." The clone turned towards the shackles and took out a kunai which he channeled his wind chakra through, then proceeded to carefully cut through the shackles. Epimeliades looked at the clone in surprise. "You mean the saplings are safe from the satyrs?" "Yes, we made sure to rescue them first so that they wouldn't have any leverage over you there. You're free now." The clone finally broke the shackles as Epimeliades got to her feet with a soft smile. "Thank you very much, now the time has come for these goats to learn a lesson that has long been overdue." The queen of the forest stood up to glare at the satyrs before thrusting her hands out. The ground began to rumble, and many vines adorned with thorns burst out from the ground as they lashed at the unsuspecting satyrs and were inflicted with multiple bruises on their already battered bodies. Back with Naruto and Zrak, the satyr looked around in shock as his fellow kinsmen are relentlessly attacked by thorny vines and then tied down regardless of the agony. He looked back to see Epimeliades waving her hands around for more vines to grow and attack more of the satyrs. "This can't be. She shouldn't raise her hands against us," shouted Zrak in disbelief. "That would be the case if your trump card was still available," said Naruto. Zrak turned towards the orange stallion, who had an innocent look on his face with a golden halo hovering over his head. You had something to do with this." The golden halo disappeared as red devil horns sprouted from both sides of his head as he smirked mischievously like Dash would often say, "Duh. Of course it was me, you're pretty slow to catch on." The satyr saw Red as he tossed aside his tomahawks and charged at the stallion with the intent to snatch him up and rip apart. Naruto looked unconcerned as Zrak drew close when a lasso suddenly wrapped around the satyr's neck and jerked him back, revealing it to be Applejack who's currently holding him back. "He's all yours, Naruto, bring him home," said Applejack. "Right on," said Naruto, then he held out a Hussbek chakra around it and took on the form of a white spiraling sphere, then he quickly closed the gap between him and the satyr. "It's over with this, Zrak, Rasengan." Naruto rammed the sphere into Zrak's torso as he was sent flying backwards in a spiraling motion, with Applejack jumping out of the way for him to skid along the ground before slowing to a stop. Many of the satyrs saw their leader go down hard and laid down their arms in a gesture of surrender. Music end. Later on, all of the satyrs knelt before Naruto, Epimeliades and the other nymphs, well bound in rope or ninja wire, with paralysis tags placed upon them. "As you can see, Zrak, this is your loss and our victory. You have not been welcome to this forest for the longest and will never will, which is why I'll say that you will leave this place and never appear here, for there will be no second should you do otherwise," said Epimeliades. If not for the paralysis, Zrak would have looked back at the nymph with defiance. Then Naruto was the next to speak. "If you're even thinking of coming back here, you should know that the Alicorn princesses will be informed and place this forest under their protection, along with my friends, and I ready to answer their call for help. So you better think twice before going through with a dumb plan you might come up with. And you wouldn't want to mess with them," Applejack added in. Zrak and the other satyrs started sweating nervously. It was bad enough that the stallion is willing to protect the nymphs, but should Princess Celestia and Princess Luna be involved, then the consequences would be too high for them to risk. They begrudgingly agreed never to return to the Whispering Woods and left once free of their bindings. "I can't thank you enough for helping us gain our freedom from the satyrs. You have our eternal gratitude," said Epimeliades as she along with the other nymphs bowed to Naruto and Applejack, making them feel a bit shy. "It's no problem at all, we're glad to help," said Naruto. "Same here," said Applejack. "Even so, I still wish to give you something. Ah yes, I believe you two traveled here in search of these." Epimeliades waved a hand as an apple tree instantly grew, then bore apples, which were the red like that of rubies, none of which they had ever seen. "I hope that these will suffice for now." "Are you sure?" asked Applejack, slightly in shock. "Of course, these fruits would benefit your family as well as serve as a link between us, should you cultivate them. And furthermore, as the queen of the Whispering Woods, I proclaim you two allies of the nymphs." The nature spirits cheered loudly at their queen's proclamation. "Whoa, this is quite an honor," said Naruto, who was overwhelmed with surprise. Epimeliade smiled warmly at them. "No, the honor is ours to have met you too." After a couple hours of celebration, the time had come for Naruto and Applejack to return to Ponyville, as well as inform the princesses of what happened, much to their disappointment. Telia had them promised to visit again along with their friend soon, with the duo acknowledging her, and so they left with the nymphs seeing them off with gratitude. Along the way, Naruto and Applejack were having a small conversation of their own. "I never thought that I would be taking part of a rescue when I started this journey with you," said Applejack. "Me neither, but I kinda expected it with how my missions often went back in my old world. But I gotta say thanks for having my back against Zrak, as expected from my ace high cowgirl." Naruto's eyes widened upon what he just said and quickly clamped a hoof over his mouth. Applejack looked at Naruto as her face turned red from what he just called her. "What did you call me?" "A ace high cowgirl, it was a nickname I came up with, but I didn't want to say it out loud and embarrass you," said Naruto, fidgeting a bit while blushing. "Ace high cowgirl. That's a really nice nickname he made for me," thought Applejack with a soft smile. She could feel a sense of warmth in her heart as she approached a flustered Naruto and kissed him on the cheek, with the stallion staring at her with wide eyes. "It's a reward for helping me and also saying something so nice. Now come on, we're burning daylight here." Naruto watched Applejack walk ahead as his heart bashed against his chest, feeling the lingering sensations of the kiss on his cheeks. He felt so at peace as of that moment, something he rarely felt back at Konoha. Just why does he feel that way when with them and want more of it? He just can't seem to figure out an answer. "Naruto, you coming?" Applejack called out, snapping Naruto out of his musings. "Yeah, wait up." Naruto galloped to catch up with her. "I seriously need some help to figure out this feeling." Soon he was next to her as they continued on their journey back to Ponyville. "Well, looks like we're back at Ponyville," said Applejack as she gazed ahead to see the town just a couple kilometers ahead of them. "Yup, we weren't gone for that long, and yet it made us feel like we really missed it, AJ." Naruto came up next to her. It was a couple of days since they left the Whispering Woods, where the nymphs are now freed and the satyrs were banished. Naruto looked sideways at Applejack and felt heat rise to his face before quickly looking away. The trip was a slightly awkward one ever since the kiss he received on the cheek from Applejack, as he has been finding it very hard to get it out of his mind. Not to forget the ones with Fluttershy and Luna too. He snapped back into focus when he heard Applejack call out to him. "Hey Naruto, what you standing there for?" said Applejack with a quirked eyebrow as she stood a fair distance away from him and was wondering why he wasn't following her. "What, oh right. I'm coming." Naruto quickly galloped over to the cowmare and both continued their approach to the town. Upon entry they were happily greeted by the residents while walking along the streets, with one of them being Derpy dressed in her work clothes, who flew close to have a small chat. "Hello Naruto, Applejack." "Welcome back," said Derpy happily. "Hi Derpy, it's good to be back here." "Howdy Derpy." Applejack greeted too. "Where did you two head off to?" "I passed by your place some time ago and they told me that you both went out on a trip." Derpy tilted her head in curiosity. Applejack spoke up. "We went looking for some special apples to serve as a new addition for the farm, and we're lucky to get some." "New apples? Will you use them for apple cider?" "Who knows? We're gonna have to test them first, making any plans to put them on sale. And wait for that day to happen. I'll have to get on with delivering of the letters, so I'll have to see you guys later," said Derpy before she flew away to her next destination. "Bye Derpy, and tell Dinky I said hi," Naruto called after her. "I will. Let's get this here apples to the farm. Granny and the folks are gonna be so surprised to learn that the story is true," said Applejack excitedly. "I'll send a couple of shadow clones to call Twilight and the others over too." Knowing Twilight, she would want to take notes about them and also inform Princess Celestia and Princess Luna to come over, said Naruto, before channeling his chakra to create a couple of shadow clones to perform the task assigned to them. Then they continued their walk to the Sweet Apple Acres. They had just gone past the front gate when they saw Apple Bloom galloping towards them with a smile on her face. "Naruto, big sis. You're back." The filly went to hug Applejack and received a hug in return. "So did you find the scarlet apples like you said you would?" "That we did," Applejack replied. "Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see." Apple Bloom was hopping up and down excitedly that Naruto had to hold her down with his tails. "Not yet, you go get Big Mac and come over to the house. We also called Twilight and the others to come too, so we can show you the apples," said Naruto. "Okay, don't start without me." Apple Bloom took off towards the orchards as fast as she could. Applejack and Naruto walked up to the front and found Granny Smith dozing off on her rocking chair at the front porch. Applejack then called out to wake her up from her slumber. "Granny, wake up, we're back from our trip." Granny Smith woke up with a start and looked around before setting her eyes on the familiar pair. Before her, "Ah, you younguns are back from your road trip, so how was it? Hope you weren't having any hanky-panky on the road." She smiled playfully when she saw Naruto and Applejack blushing beet red. "Nothing happened, Granny," Applejack shouted, though she recalled when she kissed Naruto on the cheek and felt her heart thumped harder. "Ah, to be young again. I remember how my mammy asked me questions like these when I introduced you Gramps to her." "Granny?" The old mare chuckled at how embarrassed her granddaughter is acting, and the blonde stallion was no better in that scenario. "I was just pulling your hind legs is all. So did you'll find the scarlet apples while you were out there?" Applejack nodded in affirmation. "Yes indeedy, we found them and even met voices of the forest." Granny Smith raised an eyebrow in surprise and then interest. "You did? What were they?" "Hang on Granny, we're waiting for the others to arrive so that we'll tell you what happened," said Naruto. Then they heard knocking on the door. "That must be them right now." He created a chakra arm to stretch over and open the door for Twilight and the others, mares with Apple Bloom and Big Mac following from behind. "Naru." Pinkie Pie flew across the room and glomped Naruto, almost knocking him down to the ground. "Welcome back, this calls for a party." "Yeah man, you and AJ have been gone for a while," said Rainbow Dash. "Your clones told us to come over here, though I'm guessing that you both were able to find the scarlet apples," said Twilight. "You're right that we did, and more." Applejack took off her saddlebags while Naruto brought in a platter from the kitchen and placed it on the coffee table. Then she poured the apples onto it for every pony to see. "Ooh, so these are the scarlet apples?" Apple Bloom looked at them in wonder. "Yep," Big Mac replied. "Well, I'll be a llama's auntie, so these here are the apples that Grandmammy used to talk about," said Granny Smith. "Wish she was here to see them now." "They're redder than well red," said Rainbow Dash quizzically. "Rubies is more like it, Rainbow. Their luster is certainly to behold." Rarity admired the apple's shine as she spoke. "If they look good, then they'll taste better. Let's try it out," said Pinkie Pie excitedly at the thought of making baked goods from them. "Pinkie has got right idea. This is a great chance to update the information in the library." Twilight nodded in agreement. "Then hang on a minute while I go for the knife." Applejack went back into the kitchen and moments later came back with the knife. Twilight carefully manipulated the knife with her magic to cut some of the apples into pieces for everyone to have a piece each. Naruto put a piece into his mouth and chewed on it, but the moment his tongue made contact with its juices, he left as if his mouth had just been hit with a sledgehammer of a sensation, which made him want to keep chewing and not swallow at all. He willed himself to swallow and felt it slide down his throat as smoothly as water flowing down a stream. Then there was a tingly and yet pleasant feeling in his stomach. Amazing, I've never tasted anything like this before in my life, or should I say lives. Its lusciousness is just beyond what I can think to rate it," thought Naruto, glanced to the side and saw some sporting the same stunned look and others were still chewing on theirs. "Ooh, eating just a piece makes me feel 20 years younger." Granny Smith burst out in excitement. "You said it Granny, it tastes beyond amazing," said Apple Bloom. "Yep." Big Mac was in agreement. It's really delicious," said Fluttershy softly. "It is simply divine," said Rarity. "The kinda gives me the shivers when I think of you guys making cider out of them," said Rainbow Dash. "Its taste far surpasses that of the princess's golden apples." Twilight was currently taking notes after eating her piece of the apple. "How about we go and plant the seeds now?" asked Naruto. "I've already marked the spots for the planting before we left Ponyville," said Applejack. "In the meantime, we'll tell you guys what happened in our search for the scarlet apples." The group exited from the house and were walking towards the orchard. Along the way, Naruto and Applejack were telling them of their encounter with the nymphs and how they helped them rescue their queen and drive away the satyrs from the forest, then were later given the scarlet apples as part of their thanks before making their return to Ponyville. "So nymphs really exist. It makes me wonder if the creatures I read about from the books are also out there too," said Twilight as she recorded Naruto and Applejack's story into a scroll before sealing it away in her medallion. "Man, I should have gone with you guys. Would have had some fun kicking the rear ends of those satyrs," said Rainbow Dash. "But it was nice that they're all safe now," said Fluttershy. "Well, we won't be seeing them again, that's for sure," Naruto replied. "We're here," Applejack spoke to catch their attention. There was a large empty field ahead of them with a couple of small holes already made. It could be figured that Applejack had prepared this place in advance before leaving with Naruto now to plant this here seeds and have them grow up into a nice scarlet apple trees. She placed one of the seeds into a hole and covered it up with dirt before watering it with a watering can that she brought along with her. She was moving on to the next hole when suddenly the ground began to quake violently, much to the surprise of every pony in town. "What the hey is going on?" Rainbow Dash cried out. "Guys, look over there." Pinkie Pie pointed for the others to see. The group looked, and at the spot where Applejack had just planted a seed is now a plant already sprouting. They watched in fascination as it rapidly grew from a young sapling to a giant tree towering at heights, surpassing that of a great oak tree, as white flowers blossomed before bearing fruit for all to see. "Whoa, I've never seen an apple tree or any other tree grow that fast before," said Naruto in wonder. "Me neither, I've never read about any of this back in the library," Twilight nodded in agreement. "Maybe it's a super tree," Pinkie Pie exclaimed. "Looks like we'll be getting that apple cider sooner than I thought," Rainbow Dash drooled at the thought of it. There's a large hollow hole in the middle," Fluttershy spoke up. They looked to see and sure enough, there was a large hollowed out hole in the trunk of the tree. The group wanted to take a closer, but then there was a bright light erupting from the hole which forced them back. Then there was the sound of footsteps, and someone familiar to Naruto and Applejack stood in front of them. She is a feminine humanoid with a pale skin color, her arms and legs are plant-like appendages that look like wood, hair long enough to reach the ground, and is as wide as the apple blossoms. She wears a laurel wreath adorned with many flowers, a red gown covering her feet, and could trail along the ground. "Queen Epimeliades," Applejack called out in surprise. "So she's a nymph," was the universal thought of those unfamiliar with her. Said Queen of Nymphs smiled fondly upon setting eyes on the two saviors. "Why Applejack, Naruto, it's good to see you two so soon, again, and I believe that these are your friends, hello," she waved at the stunned audience who could only wave back in shock. "But how did you get here?" asked Naruto. "I simply blessed the apples so that the first seed planted would grow very quickly and serve as a gateway from here to the Whispering Forest and back. This is mostly Paddly's idea, and most of the nymphs supported it, wanting to see you all again and meet the ponies as well," said Epimeliades with a smile. "Will the other seeds do the same when we plant them?" asked Applejack. "No need for worry, the rest will grow at a normal pace. Well, allow us to introduce you to our friends. This is Twilight, Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Granny Smith, Big Mac and Apple Bloom." Naruto gestured to each as he called out their names. "Greetings, Your Majesty, it is an honor to meet you," Twilight bowed in greeting. "Hey, what's up?" Rainbow Dash raised a hoof only to get prodded by Twilight for her lack of respect. "Hi. It's nice to meet a new friend, I hope you can come to your welcome to Ponyville party." Pinkie Pie hopped about excitedly. "It certainly is a pleasure to make your acquaintance, though I must ask who designs your clothes." "They are quite stylish," said Rarity with an appraising look at the queen's robes. "Hello," Apple Bloom waved a hoof with Big Mac bowing his head. "In all my years, I'd never thought I would meet anything out of my grandmammy's stories," said Granny Smith. Epimeliades smiled back in return. "It is a pleasure to meet you all." Naruto and Applejack had spoken of each of you during their time in the Whispering Forest. "I am hoping to meet the princesses so that we can speak of an alliance. Then I'll have Spike send a letter to the princesses right away." Twilight made to leave for the library when they heard the flapping of wings and a familiar voice called out to them from above. "There's no need for you to do that, my dear student." They all looked up to see that it was Princess Celestia and her sister Luna. "Celestia? Luna? When did you get here?" asked Naruto looking surprised. "We sensed the surge of energy from Ponyville and quickly flew over to find out the source of it. We never would have thought to meet a nymph after all these years," Luna explained as they landed on the ground before them. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Queen Epimeliades." Celestia bowed to the leader of the nymphs who bowed in return. "The feeling is mutual, I came here to propose an alliance with you," said Epimeliades. "Then perhaps we could use Twilight's library to hold our discussion," said Luna. "By all means, lead the way. In the meantime, I'll be heading home to check up on Trixie and Scoots since I was gone again for a while," Naruto spoke up. "Very well, we'll be seeing you then, Naruto," said Luna. Naruto nodded in affirmation, then walked away and left the farm before making headway to the whirlpool which was currently open. He went inside to find Trixie sitting behind the counter with a bored look on her face. She perked up and beamed happily upon seeing the blonde stallion. "Naruto, you're back," said Trixie. Naruto smiled back at her. "Yeah, sorry I took so long, AJ and I got involved in some serious stuff, but we came through and we're about to get some new friends around here soon." "New friends? I'll tell you and Scoots all about it over dinner tonight. I'm heading to see Scoots before resting since it's been a long journey." Naruto turned around for the door while withholding a yawn when Trixie called out to him. "Naruto, wait." Trixie appeared nervous when said stallion turned to her. Do you remember about what I asked before you left with Applejack a few days ago?" "Oh, about me escorting you to Canterlot. I haven't forgotten about that, we can go this weekend," Naruto replied. Trixie smiled at that. "I'll be ready by then." "Okay, then I'll see you at home." Minutes later, Naruto arrived at the Uzumaki mansion and passed by the treehouse to check if Scootaloo was there, and sure enough she was. The filly must have seen him coming for she ran down the wooden spiral staircase and went to hug him tightly. "Big bro, you're back," said Scootaloo happily. "That I am, how were things while I was gone?" asked Naruto with a smile. It's the same old boring stuff and we still haven't gotten our cutie marks from the stuff we've been doing. So were you and Applejack able to find the Scarlet Apple? Yup, that and even more, I'll tell you more about it over dinner tonight. Naruto walked towards the house with Scootaloo following as the sun slowly sets. Did you fight some monsters during your search? Naruto turned his head and gave her a wink. Who knows? You might find out when I talk about it over dinner. Sometime later, Naruto along with Scootaloo and Trixie were at the dining table having their meal while the blonde stallion told them of his adventure with Applejack in the Whispering Woods again, and after that, we were given the Scarlet Apples and made our return here. Whoa, that was so cool. You and Applejack fighting a whole tribe of satyrs is totally hardcore and this queen sounds pretty powerful, said Scootaloo with stars in her eyes. I must agree with Scootaloo, this is quite a feat, though it pales in comparison to your battle against Nightmare Moon and the Ursa Major, said Trixie. True, but it was a thing of its own. Naruto shrugged his shoulders in reply. He glanced at the clock hanging from the wall to check the time. It's getting late, you should turn in for the night scoots, since tomorrow's another day of school for you. Fine, I'll be going to bed then, Scootaloo pouted as Naruto used his magic to levitate the dirty dishes to the sink to be washed. Oh, don't be like that, Scoots. I am planning to teach you some new freerunning techniques after school. Scootaloo perked with eyes full of hope. Really? Yup, I've noticed that we haven't been spending time together like we used to before, so I want make up for the time lost, Naruto nodded with a smile. The filly ran to hug her brother joyfully. Thanks big bro, you're the best. Then she went upstairs to her room to sleep. Trixie watched Naruto with a soft smile. Ever since she began to stay with him and work at him, she learned a lot about what makes him tick. Naruto is hardworking and warm-hearted to those close to him. He's also forgiving once he understands the reason, but can be very fierce to anyone that poses ill intent towards himself and loved ones. Naruto is always cheerful, but can also be tense around girls who really like him like Twilight and others. Even Princess Celestia and Luna were being affectionate with him. However, she began to notice that he has been acting rather shy around them lately, which is giving her a cause for worry, and so decided to invite him to escort her to Canterlot so as to get closer to him. Soon the weekend finally came. Naruto and Trixie took the morning train to Canterlot, with the trip taking a couple of hours before arriving at their destination. The duo walked along the streets and taking in the ever-changing scenes of the city. So which place is it that you want to go first? Asked Naruto curiously. I have a few places in mind to purchase certain items. I thought to have some opinion in the matter if you wouldn't mind, said Trixie. Sure, if you want me to. Trixie led the way to a shop close to the street. From the looks of the signboard, it happens to be a perfume shop. They went inside and saw many shelves loaded with bottles of perfume in different shapes and sizes that Naruto himself wouldn't know where to start. Trixie strode down the aisle, scanning the rows of perfume before setting eyes on one which she picked a bottle full of brown fluid off the shelf with her magic. Trixie took off the cap and squirted a bit to her forehoof and sniffed with a contemplative look on her face. What do you think of this one, Naruto? Asked Trixie before holding her forehoof out to him. The blonde stallion was a bit nervous at what he was about to do, but reluctantly complied and took a sniff. It smelled like a mix of musk, amber and cinnamon, which is heavy and strong scent. It smells pretty good, it has a rich scent, Naruto responded. He didn't that when he was sniffing. Trixie was blushing a bit from feeling his warm breath blow her hoof. Oh okay, how about this one? Trixie put the bottle back and took out another one to sample it. This one smells like sandalwood and spices, they're okay. He didn't really like it. Trixie looked through the shelves much more critically. Maybe this one. She took the selected bottle and sprayed it on her hoof. How about this one? Naruto took a sniff and this time she was surprised to see him smile. I like this one, it smells like a combination of flowers and fruits. You should take this one. Said Naruto happily. The scent reminded Naruto about the forest back in Konoha, which made him feel nostalgic. Then I'll buy it. Trixie took the perfume to the counter while cheering inwardly at acquiring something which could attract Naruto. After making the purchase and sealing it into her medallion, the duo went window shopping at the best of the best boutique to marvel at the clothes on display. Naruto had to admit are masterfully tailored. But he strongly believes that rarity will eventually reach that level and even go beyond it. I'm getting kinda hungry, what about you Trixie? Asked Naruto. Well, it has been a while since we last ate, so I am a bit famished, Trixie replied. That's perfect, Rarity recommended me to a place some time ago when she came to Canterlot to acquire a few catalogs for references. Naruto walked off while using his tail to pull Trixie along lightly. What kind of place is it? It is an outdoor cafe called Cinnamon Kai's Tea and Cake Shop. I passed by once during one of my deliveries and memorized its location. Naruto and Trixie arrived at the place and went to sit on the chairs underneath one of the shaded tables. Then one of the waitresses, not knowing what exactly they would like to buy, the two decided on ordering shop's main attraction, which is it's a chocolate cherry cake with custard filling and buttercream rosettes, along with some tea. They found the baked good to be very delicious that Naruto ordered for one to take home for Scootaloo and the other fillies, and another for Pinkie Pie, and the rest too. He sealed the baked goods. They continued with the walk around in the streets of Canterlot. "So where else are we going?" asked Naruto curiously. "We're going to the Library of Magic so that I can return the books which I had taken some time ago and acquire some more," Trixie replied. "But why not go for books over at Twilight's place? I had checked earlier before but they weren't available, so I had to come here for them." "I see what you, maybe you should tell Twilight later so she can make an update," Naruto suggested. "I think I'll do that when we get back." Naruto and Trixie reached their next stop and went inside. Naruto walked off to find any books with an interesting title, which could catch his fancy, whilst Trixie went towards the spell book section to place the books back and went to browse for the one she needed. It took them a while before meeting up at the counter. Apparently Naruto found some books about certain tribes which shared certain aspect of a ninja and wanted to find out more. And there's another about ancient civilizations which he wanted to check out in due time, since his last adventure with Daring Do had him get the urge to go treasure hunting at times, and Twilight would definitely want to study about them too. "I believe I have what I came here for now but Trixie glanced at Naruto. "Would it be okay for us to walk around for a little while longer before returning to Canterlot?" "Sure, I don't mind but can you wait a bit? I need to pick out the latest issue of Power Ponies for Spike and Scootaloo over at the House of Enchanted Comics," said Naruto, feeling sheepish about nearly forgetting their requests. "Okay Naruto, I'll wait here for you." Trixie watched Naruto gallop off with a smile on her face. He can be so considerate of others, it's one of the many reasons why I like him. Suddenly there was a strong breeze which blew Trixie's hat off her head and away from her. Trixie ran after it and tried to catch it with her magic, but it seemed as if the breeze wasn't allowing her to do so. The chase took them all the way into an alley where the hat finally settled on the ground. Trixie picked it up and dusted the dirt off before plopping it back on her head. "I better hurry back before Naruto notices I'm gone." "Oh, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Don't you have time to see an old friend?" A female voice suddenly spoke up from Trixie. A chill raced down along her spine, and with heart thumping hard against her, as she slowly turned her head towards the source of the fearfully familiar voice, to see a pony dressed in a black cloak with a hood covering the head as it approached her. That voice, it can't be. Please anyone but her. Trixie stepped back with a growing fear in her heart as the pony slowly approached. "It's been a while." The pony took off the hood to reveal a face which only confirmed her worst fears. "Trixie." "Midnight Rose," Trixie replied fearfully. "What are you doing here?" "Well, I was passing through when I saw you standing in the streets and thought to say hello in a much secluded setting. It's been a while since we last saw each other. The rest of the gang had been wondering where you've been since you ran out on us." Midnight Rose smirked evilly. "I didn't want to be a part of it anymore," said Trixie. "But why not? We both shared something in common, and that is deception. Pretty sure you still do so." Trixie glared in defiance. "No I don't. Now leave me alone so I can leave in peace." Midnight Rose smiled darkly. "You seem to have forgotten, all those that join Kaleidoscope can never leave, and those which attempt to do so will be severely punished." Trixie's eyes widened in realization of what her old friend implied and prepared to use her magic to fight her way, but then she began to notice that her eyelids felt very heavy and her body was losing strength quickly. "What's happening to me?" Her legs wobbled before buckling from her weight as she fell to the ground. Trixie just barely raised her head to look up at Midnight Rose who towered over her. "I had used that breeze earlier to spray your hat with a concoction which induces paralysis and sleep. We have a lot of catching up to do when you wake up." Trixie couldn't do anything to resist. Before completely losing consciousness she mumbled out, "Help me Naruto." Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.